Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. I have another awesome guest with me today. This is his second time on my show, and I have with me the amazing Keith Coley. He's an energy healer and Chinese medicine practitioner trained in the Five Element Acupuncture. His work focuses on life force cultivation as the foundation of true healing, integrating ancient Chinese medicine, Gnostic cosmology, and what he calls the Phoenix Force paradigm, a system that harmonizes earth and cosmic energies through embodied daily practice. Unlike many modern energy approaches that rely solely on intention or frequencies, Keith emphasizes the practical cultivation techniques that produce real, tangible results. He's the creator of the Phoenix Force Healing System and is currently launching a Chinese medical practitioner training program designed to equip students with skills that they can immediately apply to themselves and others, going beyond any theory into the lived functional healing. And with all that said, I'd like to give him a big warm welcome back to the show. Keith, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. I looked I looked down at my chat and I was on my message. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to Rob in forever. I was so glad you asked me back on. I was like, crap, it's been a while. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. It sounds like you got a lot of interesting stuff going on. Like for the people who might have not saw our first show, like can you tell them a little bit more about like how what you do and how you got involved in all this and stuff?
Yeah, I will. I'll give you a brief little intro. So I I grew up in a cow town of Missouri. So a town like
Yeah.
3,500 people. Did not grow up in anything like this realm of healing or really anything esoteric at all. And my ex-wife had all kinds of health problems. Her father was one of the pioneers of functional medicine way back when, and nothing was getting better. And then I had somebody in Springfield, Missouri go, take her to see an acupuncturist. Here's a name. So I took her, and amazing things happened, and it got my attention. And I was like, well, how do I do this? And the lady goes, well, my daughter just graduated from a program in South Florida. You should talk to her. So I talked to Beth, and I ended up enrolling down there and was there for 3 years straight. And once I finished my clinical, I decided Springfield, Missouri just didn't feel like the right fit anymore, even though I grew up in that area. Headed down to the Nashville, Tennessee area, which is now mini Atlanta. It's blown up in the last few years. Set up a practice there, and I started down the path of the very esoteric side of Chinese medicine. So even if you were a Chinese person trained in one of the hospitals there, say Beijing or someplace in China, one of the cities, and you put me in a room with them, they would look at me after watching me treat and go, "He's the weirdo." I would be the weirdo because I always said I didn't want to be a technician. I wanted to be a true practitioner, and that means I can't rely just on needling and moxibustion and cupping and gua sha and herbology. I've got to go into the roots of the very foundation of Chinese medicine, which was before Mao Zedong and communism kept swept through China and destroyed everything, in my opinion, because TCM is not traditional. It's communist Chinese medicine. And before that, energy was the focus, cultivation was the focus. And unfortunately, the Chinese medical practitioners I meet, at least in this country, I've only met, a handful compared to how many that are here. Nobody's cultivating daily on a regular basis life force. They're not doing it. And if they are, the tools they're using are subpar. And I just don't think most of them are even doing it daily. And so my first trainer, my first buddy, who came down to the school where we'd both graduated, he 5 years before me said, if you want to come study with me in Boston, you can. I took him up on it when I got out of school. And that's what sent me down the path of the esoteric side of Chinese medicine. And I knew somewhere in my intuition, I knew when I went into acupuncture school, it was going to be a doorway. It was not the end. I wasn't going to be a guy in a room or a building with 2 or 3 rooms, which is what I was doing, needling people, going from room to room, just running like a chicken with its head cut off, trying to maintain all this ongoing practice. I was booked up, but I knew that wasn't the end. And so I moved everything to distance sessions, distance teaching about 8 years ago. And so that's really the quick summary to catch people up of what my history is, how I didn't come from any of this. Strong Protestant background growing up, then went Orthodox Christian as an adult by choice, and then left that and in about 2011. And so,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's loading the gun for all kinds of questions, but
Well, how
That's
do
the
we
background.
cultivate more life force? Like what is it? What should we be doing to like cultivate more life force in our daily lives? Like, is it something we all can do?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, there's nothing. You don't have to be somebody exceptionally skilled in some area, have some special aptitude to do it. It's really what would happen. I call them gates, and I'll make it really simple. Hang on, let me get my little dolly here for teaching purposes. I should have had her closer. All right, so I call them gates. I'm not the only one who calls them that. Let's say that you have a gate at the crown, and a gate at the throat, and a gate at the back of the heart where the heart tethers to the spine, a gate at the diaphragm, a gate at the pelvic bowl, and a gate at the ankles. And those gates and many other smaller gates throughout the body, if those are basically serving the purpose as a healthy cell does, right? Let's step back 2 seconds. A healthy cell has a lipid membrane, so a fatty membrane, and that membrane, when it's working properly, allows the proper things in and doesn't allow the things that don't belong in the cell, and it also shuttles out the things that don't belong in the cell anymore, such as waste products. So the cell has this intelligence and it has a barrier. Each of these gates, if they're operating properly, know exactly how to open up to the infinite amount of energy that is present in the cosmos as we recognize it, as the cosmos, as some suggest, which is interdimensional. And that energy flows into us because we're really, the way I look at it, and this is Keith mixing Chinese medicine, I'm mixing Chinese medicine and a paradigm with my own personal experience paradigm, which is these human avatar experiences, all of us, are simply one source that is inserting itself through emanation in the experience of time, in an experience of density. So I am really potentially able to harness and express the energy of all that is. However, if these gates aren't open and functioning like they're supposed to, I function in a more limited fashion depending on how closed down they are, how dysfunctional they are. And we don't come into the world even with them wide open. We come in
I
with all
got a
kinds of
question
things we
about
brought
that.
in, right?
I got a serious. I think me and you might have talked about this last time, but like it's a
Yeah.
question that constantly goes into my mind. It's like with entity attachments and stuff like that. Like for example,
Yeah.
like I feel like I have like a really when you mentioned gates, I feel like I have a really overactive like crown gate because like I seem to get like that's where attachments seem to um they seem to manifest for me and I've learned to move energy off me, but it's a
Hmm.
constant thing. I'm constantly clearing and stuff, and I was like, well, maybe there's something wrong with my gates. Maybe like you said, maybe like that crown gate is dysfunctioning or something, or maybe it's too open, or I don't know. What would cause that? Like, if you had to guess.
Well, do you live near a forest, or have you lived in a forest or near the woods, that type of thing? Have you lived in a place like that in your life to observe nature?
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
live in Western Pennsylvania, so it's
Okay.
like it's real woodsy here.
Yeah, you're right. So you're going to get this, and so will the people watching. So when we look at animals in the wild, we have ticks, we have all kinds of parasitic type, activity outside of an animal and inside of an animal. If it's what? Weak.
Um, yeah. We
If it's
okay,
weak. So an unhealthy animal is prone to parasitic infection or attachment. And so when
okay.
we have a tendency to have attachments, and it may not be everywhere, there could be certain gates or chakras, if you want to use that paradigm. It doesn't fit perfectly with what I'm talking about, but it's close. Then something's wrong in that area to create a weakness. When an animal is strong in nature, it doesn't worry about that. It doesn't have an overinfestation. We all have parasites, biologically speaking, to some degree, and there's a homeostasis if you're healthy, but you're not free of parasites. You're full of parasites to some degree, but there's a balance that needs to be struck. Energetically, it's no different. If you can cultivate energy, if you can entrain to what I call energetic software, if you can entrain to an energetic software that is really potent, is on the money, then it will start to open those gates. The energy starts to flood into the body, and you become more and more empowered, and the organ systems work better. And the Wei Qi field, what some people call an aura, gets bigger and stronger and less porous. and then you don't get attacked like you did because they can't get through. But the problem is, especially in the world, I've noticed in the whole starseed community, the whole galactic federation, throw whatever kind of new agey term you want to throw on all of this, where we're recognizing that the interdimensional realms they exist and we are probably in all of them. When we get into that community who recognizes that, which are, these are my people too. However, this is where I differ. Most of them, as you alluded to a minute ago, Rob, they are open. The energy's penetrating their oversoul, their eternal aspect, as it can be fully charged, is usually inhabiting about to here, to the chest, maybe to the diaphragm. And
Yeah.
then all these areas are wide open. And so they have all these experiences because their ability to detect the infinite amount of frequency you can detect, because there's no end to it, and then start to perceive it, is wide open. And that's really cool. And it can be really trippy and make life really interesting. The problem is, what I feel with most of the people in these groups is they're ungrounded. And the reason why, there's a few reasons why, but the energy isn't moving all the way down, out the feet, and into the earth, into what I call the mother stem. That's the umbilical cord from the earth, moving up through the body, through the legs, into the body, to where you're inhabiting your whole body. What causes us to not inhabit our whole body? Usually trauma. When we have trauma, you think a woman or a man who has sexual trauma, do you think that they're going to want to have their full consciousness and be present in this zone of the body?
No.
They're not. So they avoid it. Therefore, it does not stay fully present and occupied in full presence. Therefore, they're operating in part. And so the community that your audience, probably, a lot of them, they probably have a lot of this activity and not a whole lot of this going on. And that's one of my jobs, I believe, is to help educate our community, the world in general, but whoever listened to me, that we need to be opening up all of these gates, occupying the whole entire human avatar, so we can have a more rich, full, present experience, and that we are not susceptible. Because what I end up encountering, and you'll find my language, some of you will be a little off-putting, and I apologize. It's just kind of the way I talk. I'm becoming older, so my niceties are falling to the wayside. But there's too many wallflowers in our community. There's too much. I'm just such a delicate empath, and I just feel everything, and I can't step outside, or my life is in shambles because I just feel too much. And I'm like, okay, stop. That's great that you're perceptive. That's a beautiful thing. But as opposed to hanging your hat on the I'm a delicate empath, stop, because it turns you into a victim. I want you all to be powerful. I want you all to take this empathy that you have, be able to detect all these beautiful things, and then have that backed up by power. And that happens by cultivating energy and training to software, energetic software, in these certain exercises that are truly good, these Qigong forms that are truly useful, and then open those gates, inhabit your body, and be a powerful beacon and a broadcasting system into this world for change. We're not going to make change by voting. We're not going to make change by writing your senator or whatever country you're in, your political officials. That doesn't create change. That keeps you occupied.
Yeah,
Change
exactly.
comes, in my opinion, by what we emit. And if we're not powerful, we live out in the middle of nowhere. We have one cell tower that Verizon put up here eons ago. It's ancient, it's archaic, and it barely works. It has just enough of a signal to reach our cell phones. If we drop that signal down, guess what our phones can't pick up anymore? No signal.
Yeah.
Do you want to be a broadcast tower in this world that broadcasts a powerful signal for entrainment to the one beautiful light, the one true, one source of all things, so that then things start to change because it's inevitable, because we're so strong? Or do we want to go online and talk about how weak and disempowered we are, but we're perceptive? We don't want that. So if you haven't got the picture already, that is one of my missions in life, is to teach the people who feel like they could be something powerful in this world and effective, but don't know how to do it. I'm here to teach them how to get the power behind the beauty and the aptitude that they probably have.
I
How's that
love
for a
that.
sermon? Pass the
I
hat.
love that.
Take a
That's amazing.
collection.
So tell the people about the Phoenix Force. So like I know that you do Chinese medicine, but you come up with this your own form of energy healing called the Phoenix Force. Tell us about that.
So about 2.5 years ago, I I had a very strong, powerful force move in to the top of my head and work its way down. And it was really strong, kind of electrical, more so than the energy I've cultivated before. And I'd never had something move in palpably like that. Not like something with intelligence moving in to the top of my head. That was new for me. Many of you might be like, that's an everyday occurrence. But for me, it was a new thing. And so when that happened, everything started to change. Everything started to amp up in my life. Everything, the intensity started to get there. I'm sure this is a familiar story to many people. And so that led to me creating energetic forms that would then help to install that energetic software into other people and then allow them to be able to do exercises that would then expand that ability. And even since we've spoken last, I did create, and I want to talk about this. I'm not sure if people are interested or not, but I want to talk about the latest form I created, which is called the Forge of Heaven. So Forge of Heaven. And it works along specifically along these 6 what I call convergence points, these gates, these convergence points are a lattice. And when they're all tied in and communicating and operating like they're supposed to, then we're fully present in our bodies and we have a better chance of operating at a fuller capacity of our potential. And so usually most exercises that actually do anything that cultivate tend to bring energy in and then you kind of radiate that out through your tissue and your field. It's all about outward radiation. That's cool. Love it. Spent 20 plus years cultivating that type of energy. But I realized for me, I needed something that took the energy and drove it deep into the bones, into the tissue, the connective tissue, the fascia, like drove it deep, deep in and compressed and condensed. I'm not the first one to think of this. There's many old Chinese medical, or not Chinese medical, Chinese qigong, Neigong type of practices that do this sort of bone, a bone breathing type of exercises. But I didn't want to have just those mechanical type of breathing techniques, as I'm not for that. I'm all about exercises being easy and having a really strong bioenergetic software that it gets activated as you do whatever the physical activity is. So it's not all on you having to gut your way through it. So the purpose of the Forge of Heaven is to draw in your oversoul. I just chose a name that's been used before by many, but the oversoul, which is basically, it is the distillation and the gradient of the denser end of the gradient of energy from the one that I call basically the placenta, that sits right outside of time, if you will, and contains all of your different oversoul experiences. And then it drops an umbilical cord again down in through time. And that's us. We are that nodal point in time that's dropped in through this oversoul connection. And so I said, well, I'm going to ask for the oversoul to be more and more coming in and inhabiting this and then collapsing and condensing all of the patterns of dysfunction I have. Some I brought in, but many I developed out of trauma. We develop survival patterns, these structures inside of us out of trauma, and maybe they're useful for the moment or even longer than a moment, but eventually they're not useful anymore and they're an impediment. Because my understanding is, and it's an understanding, doesn't mean I know, I just lean in this direction, that the reason we're here, the major reason we're here, is to learn how to take those impediments and metabolize them, alchemize them, collapse them, whatever word you want to use, to move out of the way to allow this human avatar experience, your human avatar experience, to be more and more pure and empowered by your oversoul. That's the point. It's heaven and earth in harmony, right? To where we are the powerful beings that we were meant to be. Not that you're born a piece of shit and you're worthless. You've got some horrible taproot of sin that you came in with. and hopefully God will somehow spare you through Jesus' sacrifice or whatever religious background you have. What if it's not that way? Flip it around. What if you are absolutely the one here manifesting in density, and the whole reason you're here is so the one could know itself as separate, to emanate, undulate out from itself as the one, denser and denser in form until we come in like this with amnesia. And our life process is to collapse those structures of amnesia till we have more and more remembrance of who we really are, therefore becoming more and more empowered. And to me, the Forge of Heaven, I created that to assist me first, because it's got to work for me before I'm going to teach it to somebody else, to collapse those different forms. When I started doing this, I started having these eruptions all along the long bones on the skin, but along the femur and the fibula and the tibia on the lower part of the leg and between my toes. I had all these eruptions and bubbling up coming out of my skin from my bones, which was great because it let me know that it was working, but it itched like crazy, itched like mad. I'm not the only one. Some of my 12 or 13 students I now have of this form, they're experiencing similar things. That's the side effect that lets you know that these things are getting collapsed and it's coming out. Not all of them have the skin thing. Some of them have other type of evidence that there's a collapsing of stuff we don't need and an exiting of the body through the skin or through the large intestine, or you pick your orifice. But that's the latest thing I've created. And I have to say, I would like to believe it's the most transformational and most potentially powerful form I've created, because it's taking the energy and it's collecting and condensing it into our flesh so we become more resilient, which goes right back to where we started. To Keith, I've got these things I think connecting and collecting and attaching up here. That form, the Forge of Heaven, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, because can I tell you something? I'm also starting to come into my abilities. Like when I was with a girl over the summer, she told
Yeah.
me that I was able to project my energy onto her, and we were
Yeah.
like practicing like moving clouds with our mind and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I've been able to move energy off me a little bit, and like move, I can perceive energy when it comes into my field, and like I can perceive. Yeah, it's interesting. Like and even I felt like something the other day in my hand. Like I felt like something was like
Mhm.
activating in my hand. Like, and I
Mhm.
told my friend that, and I was like, "Am I going crazy?" I was like, I was like, I don't think I am. I think I so I'd
Mhm.
love to work with you because like I think like it would benefit me a lot because of what's happening with me. You know?
Well, and last time I spoke with you, and I don't remember all the details, it's been too long, but you were going through a pretty rough time,
Yeah.
and you feel better now than you did. You feel like you've kind of moved, through that to a large degree. But all of us, not just you, Rob, me, everybody else, grief is a big one. We're having a worldwide sadness and pissed off. Those seem to be two big ones. And underneath it all, if we want to get real about it, probably is a healthy foundation or not so healthy foundation after a while of fear. And so this kind of work is about us going in and internally looking at those emotional states that have lingered, because there's not an emotion that's off limits. All emotions are great if they're appropriately timed for the context and they move along. It's when they take up residence inside of an organ system and don't leave that it becomes an issue. So some of what you're experiencing is those emotions being worked on, which eventually will start to open up the sensation of the palms. We have what are called the five palms: the palms of your hand, the soles of your feet, and the area are over your heart. Those are the five palms. Those are very big exchange areas, input and output of energy. And so it sounds like yours are starting to wake up to some degree, and that's fantastic. It's the way it should be. You're waking up to operate in the way that you're becoming more whole and fully human. And that's what we all can be, is more fully awake. That's what, to me, what awakening is. Awakening is not realizing that there's human trafficking. and that there's evil in the world. Okay, yes, that's important to know that, but that's not what the awakening is about to me. The awakening is the awakening of what I've just said, which is I am the one having the experience of individuality, intangibility, density, with the state of amnesia in the process of and journey of remembering, so that I become more and more of who I really am. That's the awakening. It's not waiting for Jesus to show up and rescue everybody with a giant spiritual arc. It's not about alien ships coming and snatching us up at the last minute before we have some extinction event. It's about us awakening to and remembering to who we are. Maybe we knew at some point in the past. Maybe we did, but I don't think it's been for a very long time that we have known and then lived in a way that's empowering. Sounds like you're waking up, like energetically waking up.
That's what I feel. That's what it feels like, and it's exciting to me, because it's like a whole
Yeah,
new world of like possibilities, you know.
absolutely. I agree. Yeah, and you're onto something too. I mean, that awakening and what comes out of it, the abilities that you cultivate are sometimes very individualistic. It's about who you are. And it's also about what type of cultivation you're doing. There's qigong forms, cultivation forms for all kinds of reasons. If I'm going to go in and become a warrior, I'm going to do some iron shirt type work. I'm going to make my skin and my tissue as impenetrable as I can, knowing I probably won't make it to 40 anyway. I'm a warrior. But by golly, I'm going to take a lot of people out on the way out myself. So I'm going to condition my body. Is that a type of cultivation for longevity? Well, no, because you're a warrior. You're probably going to die young anyway. But even beyond that, it doesn't mean that you're building the chi in a way that's for living a very, very long time. There's scholastic qigong to make your mental and emotional functioning as a unit, your mind, which means your mind, your gray matter, and your heart. You could do qigong for that. Qigong for performance of other kinds, athletic endeavors. There's all kinds of cultivation forms out there. So when people are like, well, what kind of qigong form should I do? I'm like, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. For most people, it's I want to have better health, feel better, and live longer. Pretty. How about this one? Would you like to have better and longer sex?
Absolutely.
There you go. And that's where you get people's attention. Okay, okay, yeah, okay. I didn't care about the longevity part of it. People are like, I don't give a shit about that. But what about the sex part? And it all goes hand in hand, which is the more life force you have, then the better your sex life is. And there's no you don't have any ED issues if as a man, if the life force is strong and balanced, the yin and yang is balanced, and you'll perform great into an old man. And for women, there's sexual vitality lost, of course, as they age as well. It just displays differently. Postmenopause, menopause, and postmenopause don't have to mean that you're turning into an old woman who has no libido. But as
Yeah.
Westerners, we don't understand this stuff. We think it's popping pills. Maybe it's taking a nice supplement stack from my naturopath. Could be useful, don't get me wrong. But you can't pop a pill, whether it's a naturopathic remedy or whether it's pharmaceuticals. You can't pop enough of those to put more life force in your body. It doesn't work that way. There's not a machine I've ever felt, doesn't mean they don't exist, that I've ever felt, whether that's in person or viewing them through screenshots or video, or supplements that's ever loaded somebody up suddenly with a bunch of life force. Not one, which is why I'm dubious about med beds.
Yeah.
Dubious. Could they correct information flow in the body? Yeah. We've already got stuff like that. Could it imbue the body with life force? I have my doubts. Well, President Trump's using them. Like, no, he's not. I would feel that. If there was some kind of incredible med bed that's allowed that man to be superhuman in his chi, I would feel his superhumanness. Now, I will say, though, any figure out there who is loved by a lot of people who are religious and pray for that person, they will often have more life force because of all those millions of people praying and holding them in their intention and attention every day. I do
Yeah.
believe that President Trump has had a lot more life force than he would otherwise, because he's had that going on.
Well,
But
isn't
the
he like
same,
86 years old, or is he's like 84
no,
or something, right?
he's 80, isn't he 80, 81, something like that, I think?
Maybe 80,
I think he's
81.
just
Yeah,
cracked the 80 barrier. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I don't think he's that old, but I mean, but he is losing vitality. I mean, you can see it in the way he
yeah,
moves, the way he talks. He's starting to show the wear of life and the load and whatever he's involved with. I don't pretend to know. I'm also not here to make political statements. I don't get that deep into politics personally. I pay attention, but I don't pick sides necessarily. But I'm just giving an example of somebody who's really popular
yeah.
in the United States, who's got millions of people putting their intention and attention on him every day, which feeds him. However, back to your initial point, you also have people who want to kill him, who hate him. That also is received by each of us. So some people can feel that. Like if Rob, you got your show, let's say you've got 500 people who watch an episode, 1,000, 2,000, and you piss off 2/3 of them. You're going to have some people thinking some nasty shit about you.
Yeah.
And that's going to be directed at you. It's going to reach you because the way this place works is if I think about somebody, if you think about somebody, we're connected.
Quantum entanglement, right?
Bingo. It's going to happen. That's not some special skill set. Now, you do it consciously or unconsciously, and that's the difference. Because if I do it consciously and I train that and I'm aware and my sensitivity is more and more acute over time and I cultivate the energy, then I can suddenly move in and move inside of your body and feel what's going on inside of you like right now and feel where things aren't moving quite so well. And what's that emotion right there sitting in your chest towards your right side over your right lung? Like, what's that about? And just things like that. Now, that's conscious quantum entanglement with purpose, and if I do that long enough with anybody, stuff's going to start moving. Because we
Wow.
know when we put our mind somewhere, our focal point, our yi, if we place it somewhere, energy starts to be drawn to that area. But if you have somebody who hates your guts and they're powerful, and I've only been consciously attacked twice, like where I could feel the punch. That's somebody who knows what they're doing, they know how this works, and they either have emotion that they're hitting me with, or they've cultivated energy and they've been hired to attack. And those
What
people
about
are out
people
there.
who use black magic?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. The first time I was knowingly attacked, I was treating a woman in Nashville who had a lover wannabe who lived up north. He was an attorney. And he also claimed to be part of the black aspect of the Catholic Church. I don't know exactly what that means. He said he was part of the black witchcraft aspect of the Catholic Church. That was his claim. And he was trying to coerce me into manipulating her. And I remember one day she was in my room on my table. I could feel him poking around with his mind off from where he lived, multiple states away. He's poking around. And I told him in here, I said, get out of my office. This is my space. You will not come in here. These walls are mine. Out. And he left. We did the session. And as soon as I walked outside of the frame, the door frame of my room, I felt like somebody hit me in the stomach. They sucker punched me.
Wow.
I was like, oh, I couldn't breathe. And I was like, God, I know what this feels like to get sucker punched. It's been a lot of years, but I know what it feels like. And I was having to try to get my breath back, and I was nauseous. I was like, oh, and I realized he held true. I told him not to mess with us till, out inside that room. He waited till I was outside of my room and he popped me. And that was my first attack. That's somebody who knows what he's doing. He's cultivated a certain kind of energy that he can then use. Now, he was emotional in the sense he was pissed off at me. So there was some emotion involved, because you can take somebody who's not really all that skilled in their cultivation, but if they're angry enough, then the dark side takes over and their attack has more impact. But if you're strong, you can absolutely, hey Heidi, you can absolutely then take that ability, that resilience, and stave it off. And this is a story that I've told maybe here before, but I certainly told it whenever I was on Matthew Morning Show a while back, because he was there in California, in Ventura, when my wife was attending a disclosure event at that massive 300, I say massive, it's big to me, a 300 hotel room hotel there in Ventura where the convention was taking place. And she lands, she gets there, she gets ready to go she goes into the front door of the hotel, and she steps out and calls me. She goes, I can't stay here. I said, what? She goes, I'm walking next door to go to get a room across the street. I said, what's going on? She goes, somebody's attacking this place. This place is somebody who knows what they're doing, strong, is attacking this place. It's terrible. I don't even want to be, I can't sleep in there. I don't know how I'm going to attend the event. It feels so awful. So I put my mind into the hotel, and I moved, and I felt for the direction of what was being broadcast at that hotel. And I stood there. I said, I got you. And it felt like it was a guy. I could be wrong. It felt like it was a dude. And it felt like he was hired. He had no personal grudge, I don't think. If he did, it wasn't much emotion. It was more about being hired to make the attack. He was attacking everybody attending the event, speakers, attendees, everything, which Matthew was there as a speaker. And I said, give me a while. Now, I was in Forks, Washington, home of Twilight. That's where I lived at the time. And I said to our son, who was little, I said, Daddy's going to do something I don't normally do. You may get a few hours of children's videos because Daddy's got to work on something. Oh, wow. Thank you.
Matthew said he remembers he was there at the event.
Yeah. And so I told my wife, I said, I will stand in front, if you will, of the hotel, and I'll do Pongu Shingon, one of my Qigong forms. I will just stand there and take the onslaught until I wear this person out. So thank you, joyful Jennifer. In early August, there you go. And so I'm standing there, and I'm for 3 hours until I wore this guy out. Now, was he the only one? I don't know. I'm not claiming to have that kind of understanding and knowing. I'm just one dude from Missouri. But I had my guy, and I wore him out. And then I tried to work on the hotel after that the best I could to try to clean it up. I didn't do the best job in the world. My wife said, it's tolerable. It's not so bad. I can tell they're not pouring everything out in this place anymore. And she stayed there anyway and attended the event. But many of the speakers, as Matthew will tell you, the people there talked about how they'd been sick and they were all being attacked. And so that was the second time I ever stood toe to toe. But this was the first time I did it deliberately and not in defense. Because my wife goes, I can't stay here. So that was my first time doing that. But if I hadn't had years of cultivation and my nervous system having a wider, broad bandwidth than I would have had if I hadn't been doing those years of cultivation, I would not have been able to do it because the person was good. And about a day or two later, I got the little energetic tap on my shoulder. You better tap into that hotel. I said, okay. And I felt, I'm like, there's somebody else. And it felt like it was a woman, felt like she hadn't trained as long as the first guy, but she was the next person in line. And it took me about an hour and a half to wear her out. Because I can sit there and cultivate and metabolize somebody's garbage for as long as I can keep doing the form. I will wear you out. I will wear you out. And anybody who's done what I am or have and who I am because of it, you would too. It's just like athletes. I always tell Rob, train in your life like you're a professional athlete, especially if you're a practitioner. If you're not training in this way as a practitioner, I would encourage you to do so. If we're going to as my first teacher said, if we're going to call ourselves energy workers, then we should be cultivating energy. It would be like saying, I'm going to go for the Olympics in 4 years. Oh my gosh, dude, what are you going to do? Track and field, baby. I'm going to own the track and field. I'm coming up with the gold. Oh my gosh, what does your training regimen look like? Training? Yeah, I mean, you got 4 years to get yourself ready to get ready to compete against the world's best. You're going to train, right? I didn't plan on training. I'm just going to show up and do my best. No, they train. So if we train like elite athletes, when it comes time to treat others or help others, we perform like elite athletes. If you're like, well, I'm not a practitioner, what do I give a shit about this stuff? This is about life. This is about living in this place, in this density with all these people and all of these other entities that don't have our density, that we live amongst and with, some who are aligned with us as humanity and some not so much. Would you not want to be prepared to make the most out of this life? And so that's at 50, almost 55, that's what I do. That's my life.
You don't look
Man.
55, man. You don't look 55. You know?
Well, this huge filter I have on right now, it makes me, I'm just kidding. I don't have a filter on.
But let's talk a little bit more. So have you seen a lot of do you believe that there's a lot more psychic warfare going on and energy warfare going on than people might believe that is going on? And do you think a lot of these times these conferences get attacked and people don't know it?
Yeah, I do. I think and all it takes is one person that's targeted. All it takes is one person. But I mean, I think it's happening a lot. I think it happens a lot unconsciously. I also think it happens very purposefully and people train for it. It is the part that nobody's talking about. When we brought Eastern medicine and philosophy over to the Western culture, they kept a lot of what I call the secret sauce. They didn't let it out. We're not them. We're not from their culture. Why would they give us the secret sauce? They gave us just enough to make us happy and to take our money. Go back to the United States. Yeah, set up a school. Oh, yeah, teach your students. While they had the really secret sauce. I think governments, I think certain organizations, some known by name, some not known widely by name, they have secret sauce they don't share, and it empowers their members to be able to do things. Now, do I think it's as widespread as some people think it is in our community? No, I don't. But I think it's definitely there. And I think there's some people who are really good at it. I've put my X-Men Professor Xavier Cerebro hat on before, in my imagination, of course. And I've sat there and just asked to feel different people in this world of differing abilities and power, and to feel who's out there. And there's some really powerful people out there in this world, and I doubt hardly anybody knows that they're that way. I don't think they broadcast it. They're not like I am, where I'm like, hey, I want to teach everybody. Who can I teach? I'm the middle of the rung type of guy. The people I'm talking about, nobody knows who they are. Very few. They don't know. It's hard. It's hard to be a Westerner or living a Western type technologically advanced lifestyle with a family, with children, living in the world of people, and also have the time and the solitude to cultivate in the most ideal way. This is why there are monastics. Those people disappear out amongst themselves in a group to have a unified purpose, and if they become masters of that to some degree, then they may go off by themselves to have even more isolation, to become even more in tune and trained, aligned, coherent, and powerful. Those people are in the world. I have felt them. I aspire, but I also aspire to have a wife and to have a child and a life part two, because I'm a grandfather. So I have a 9-year-old. I also have a 29-year-old almost, and then 2 grandkids. So I know the chances of me having that type of attaining those levels of cultivation may not happen because I've made choices. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that makes me the right guy to treat the populace, because I know what it's like to live life and also try to make time for cultivation so that I'm able to live a healthier, more balanced and resilient life.
How much time, how much time should we, so 2 questions, like how much time should we spend cultivating energy per day? And then how much of it should we spend like physically training as well? Like, incorporating like a physical regimen.
Yeah, those are great questions, Rob, because there's stories told of groups that were just meditating all the time but not getting much physical activity, and that wasn't going so well for them. There needs to be a balance. You're right. I think resistance training is massive. I think honestly, walking, hiking, and resistance training, those are things you can do the rest of your life. You cannot go out and pound out the pavement on asphalt and concrete for the rest of your life. It's going to wear you down. Most people won't make it without joint injury. It's not a good long-term plan. As much as you may love it, it's not a great thing to plan as your main health thing, I don't think. There's too much expenditure for not enough return in your investment. I always look at everything as an investment. What am I getting for my investment? So if I'm doing resistance training, it keeps my bone density, it keeps my muscularity carrying more lean tissue than I would otherwise. And that also prevents me from falling, having accidents. I have better balance because I'm training. I use an X3 bar. There's a guy named Dr. John Jaquish, and the X3 bar is a great way to exercise at home with resistance training. And the rest of it, I think walking and hiking are fantastic for movement. If you want other things that are like that, knock yourself out. Yoga, Pilates, whatever floats your boat, those are great. I think it's crucial. I don't think we do it enough, as at least a population in the overall United States population anyway. As far as
Because I was just saying,
qigong
it
goes,
helps move the energy, right? It helps move
yeah,
the energy in your body. Like
yeah,
it's, and you want to keep that energy moving, right? So
you
like
do. You're
exercise
right.
would help, right? That makes sense.
Absolutely. No, you're dead on the money. We don't move enough. We need to have actual blood flow moving. Um, I don't again, I don't prescribe to extreme, exercise for everybody. I think that that's not the best. There needs to be some balance there, but I don't think we're moving enough. I think yoga. I got taken to task online the other day for this. I think yoga is a wonderful thing. I also think it's basically lost its power to cultivate prana or chi. I think it's turned into something that stretches the fascia. It creates movement within the channels, movement within the body, but it doesn't do a whole lot to draw prana or chi or ki, depending on your culture. It doesn't do a lot to draw it in. It probably used to, but it doesn't do so much now. I don't think overall from all the yogis I feel, I'm underwhelmed. I'm like, you still got liver chi stagnation. Your spleen's still deficient. What are all the emotions sitting around your heart, circling like a bunch of satellite garbage? I'm not impressed by what I feel because there's not enough chi in there. I mean, you've got to have the life force part. You have to have it. So, how much should you do a day? Where are you in your health? How much do you normally hold in your body? Are you a good battery? I'm going to say something that'll probably piss some people off, but it's just what I've noticed feeling. People who don't eat much meat don't store chi very well. Vegetarians and vegans, especially vegans, they don't store chi very well at all. They may feel light, they may feel effervescent, they may feel more dispersed, which to them feels more spiritual. Whatever you want to do, do it. But I'll tell you what you're not doing. Your body's not holding a lot of chi. So it seems like there's a certain amount of meat in our diet that helps to ground the body, ground the energy, and hang on to it a little better. So a lot of the people who do yoga, I find that are vegans, whether they're in this country or other countries, including India. I think one of the reasons why I don't also feel as much chi in those people is they don't eat much meat. And I'm looking for tangible resilience in the body. Is what I'm looking for people to build. That's what keeps us healthy. So that for you, that may mean 20 minutes a day is all the cultivation you need. The next person may need 2 hours a day. If you come to me and say I have cancer, then you have to do. I won't work with you unless you promise to cultivate energy every day. I won't do it. I'm not going to help you get rid of tumors to have them come right back again in 3 months. I'm going to be frustrated. Yeah. I'm going to be worried about you the whole time that they're coming back potentially. You've got to pedal your health bicycle. I'll push it, but you're going to have to pedal it. And those people who are like, well, I've got stage 4 cancer. Okay, how many hours a day are you willing to put into cultivating energy? Hours? I'm like, yeah, that's how I'm going to work with you. You're going to give me at least 3 hours a day? Oh, I don't know. I'm like, well, then game over. I'm not doing it. I'm not working with you. I want you to thrive. I want you to be empowered. So that person needs a lot. But the next person, like I said, may need 20 minutes a day to kind of maintain. So it's all about who you are, what have you been through, how deep in the hole are you or not. And maybe you're not even here. Maybe you don't come to me to cultivate energy because you're sick or unhealthy. Maybe you're like me. You're like, no, I want to see what is my potential? What can I become? Now, how many hours are you willing to do to become that? How many hours are you willing? I do 3 to 4 a day. I have a 9-year-old. I work 3 full days. I homeschool the other 3 days of the week. My wife homeschools 2 of those 5 school days, and then she works the other 3 work days. Yet I get in 3 to 4 hours a day, which is when I have people tell me, oh, I don't have time for that. I'm like, bullshit. You mean you won't prioritize the time to do it? I just straight talk. I don't want to hear from anybody. I don't have time. Bullshit. You will make time for what you value. And to me, there's nothing more valuable than this because you can't take enough supplements, you can't take enough drugs, you can't use enough devices to make yourself powerful in this way. And that's why there's so few people who are powerful in this way.
And this is the best way to be powerful, right? Because you can do amazing things, right?
Dude, man, if I absolutely, don't you want to live your biggest, fullest? I mean, don't you leave it all on the table before you check out of this place? I want to leave it all on the table. I don't want to
Me
be on my
too.
deathbed and go, oh, I wish. I don't want to wish. Here's a dead person. They just died. They just died, okay? She lived a great life. She was a great woman. She's now just dead. Just took her last breath. But I have the best whole organic food money can buy. So I open her mouth and I just shove the food in there and I'm just going to work her jaws and massage her throat and try to get that food to work down to her stomach somehow. What do you think's going to happen to her?
She's still going to be dead, right?
She's going to be dead. She didn't
Yeah.
absorb anything. She didn't metabolize that food. There's no assimilation. How come? I just put food in her mouth. Best
There's
money
no
can
life
buy.
force.
There's no life force. No life force. She was alive 5 minutes ago. She's dead now. No life force. So life force is the secret sauce. So for all the alternative medical practitioners out there, for all of the people who believe in alternative medicine, believe in crystal healing, and all the different things, if you aren't putting your focus on what I'm talking about, I will arrogantly say you are missing the boat. You're missing it. And it's not even your fault because the secret sauce didn't get brought over here from Eastern thought. It is making its way now. It's starting to permeate. But overall, people didn't know. They didn't know. Which is why your acupuncturists in most of your clinics in the United States, they're good technicians. They're shitty Chinese medical practitioners. No chi. I didn't have better results with my clients when I was an acupuncturist because I knew more theory, had more years of experience. I didn't. Plenty of people in Nashville knew a lot more than I did. Still do. But I had life force because I cultivated. And my teacher told me, you cultivate that, you move it into your clients, do your treatment, your people will get better. Which is why I had people knocking on my door going, hey, I don't want to name names, but I saw other acupuncturists in town and I don't get the same results, dude. I thought I'd just kind of shop around, but you do something they're not doing. I'm like, yeah, I do what they could be doing. But they don't take the time or don't know how to do it. I mean, I don't think I spoke quite this directly last time I was on your show, but as I get older, I don't pussyfoot around. I don't put a lot of window dressing. I'm like, look, I'm just putting the signal out. Who hears what I'm saying and wants to make a difference in this way? If you do, reach out to me. I'm starting a new Chinese medical course coming up on the, God, I don't want to say the wrong date. I think it's the 17th of January. Make sure I don't say this incorrectly. Nope, that's not right, Keith. No, it is right. 17th of January on a Saturday. That'll be the first of 10 weeks. And it's not just, oh, well, I've already learned Chinese theory. That's not what I do. You might have learned more theory in another class, but you won't have it put in your body. I will entrain you to those principles. You won't just understand them theoretically. I will put that in your body. I will broadcast it into you as we work through each week. You will leave there knowing how to treat people. We'll have people come to class as guests on Zoom, and the students will treat those people. I won't. I walk out of the room. I'll make the diagnosis. Here's Rob. This is what I pick up. Rob will give us a little bit of story. I'll ask Rob what happened at these points in your life because I'll feel along your lifespan, your calendar of your life. And I'll say, students, this is what you're going to work on. This is the order on which to work on. I'll see you in 15, 20 minutes. And I will walk out of the room and go upstairs so that they know they're the ones making the difference in that student or that patient. I'm not doing it. That's how I work my classwork. You know what I got when I graduated from the Academy for Five Element Acupuncture in Florida? You know what they told us upon graduation? We've taught you just enough not to hurt somebody. I just spent how much money and how many years, and you're telling me I won't hurt anybody, but you that and they were right. That's how we were equipped. You had to figure it all out on your own when you got out of there. My students don't leave having to figure it out. They will know how to work on people and make a difference, guaranteed, long before the 10 weeks are over. So it isn't just another Chinese medical course for the layperson. It is usable principles ingrained in your flesh that you will be able to implement immediately in your own life first and in anybody else's life that you care about, or animal, human, animal, plant, doesn't matter. So there's my shameless stump for my class coming up soon.
Man, I love that. That's amazing. I hope I can I hope I can take your class. You know, I'm going to try to. You know, and will that class teach everybody how to cultivate energy, or like how they should be cultivating energy? Is that kind of like where
I
you're
will,
going with that?
yeah, there will be at least two major forms taught in that class, and that way they'll be taught immediate. Like one of them will be taught immediately. Now, some of my students come in and they already know some of these because they've been students and they've either learned from me one on one. Because I don't want people to think, oh, I got to take a 10-week course to learn how to cultivate energy. No, let me make that clear. Rob could say, "Hey, man, Keith, I want to on tomorrow. You got a time slot open to teach me one of those forms? Yeah, man. You got 2 hours at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I got a slot open. Yep, we're on Zoom, and tomorrow for a couple of hours, I will teach you whatever form I feel is the best for you, for a good fit for you, and you'll leave that 2-hour class on Zoom knowing how to do that form." And then you're like, well, oh, that's cool. What if I have questions? Then you reach out to me and you ask me. And guess what? You don't have to do. Ever pay me a penny for me answering those questions. If I teach you a form, you have me for the rest of my life. I charge you for the class. It's how I make my living. It's also how most people value the exchange, I've learned. When I've tried to give it away, people don't value it. So I exchange it for a price. But what you get is me answering questions about your journey doing that exercise from now on, and I don't charge you a penny. So I don't know of a deal better than that in this kind of energetic offerings to where I commit to you and I don't ever charge you a penny again to talk about that exercise because I want you to succeed. And there's going to be questions. So you don't have to take the 10-week course around Chinese medicine to learn how to cultivate qi. You just need a couple of hours, and we agree on one of my work days and one of your open days, and we learn it. That's it. I have recordings. I can do one of them through recording for people. But what I find, even though it works because I've encoded the recording with the software that when anybody watches it, it moves into the person. That does not happen, folks, when you watch YouTube videos. Don't think for a minute that when you're watching YouTube videos that you're going to have some type of entrainment going on with software watching a Qigong form I learned on YouTube. Usually, that's not going to amount to a whole lot. You want somebody who has a form that either they've learned from their teacher or they've created that they can take that energetic software, copy and paste, and now it's in Rob. That's what I do when I teach somebody. I didn't come up with that. That's the old way of doing it. So you could do that, yeah, 2 hours. So I would encourage everybody. People are like, well, I want to do it in person. If it's Pongu Shingon and you want somebody to teach you in person, I will try to help you find somebody in your state that could teach you in person if I think they're worth their salt. I don't have to collect the money or teach you, but I do want you to learn something that works. And there's a lot of stuff out there for what I value in cultivation that don't seem to do a whole lot, in my opinion. That's just my
Yeah.
opinion.
Wow. Wow. This is fascinating, Keith. Let me ask you this: is there anything else you want to cover before we finish up for today? This was amazing, though. This was really motivational. Really.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it. Is there anything else just know that every single person is capable of regaining your health and being powerful in your influence in the world. And I'm not trying to sound trite in this, but your life is potentially that emanating point that helps to change the world. You are, I am, we all are. But we have to be diligent daily with the proper tools of cultivation so that we can be that powerful force in the world. We cannot be lazy. We cannot be lazy. We have to be diligent and train ourselves like athletes. So if you really want to be powerful in the world, you're going to have to train to do it. It's not enough to ask your angels to take over for you, or whatever you're calling on, whatever entity you're calling on to just do it for you. I'm not saying there isn't divine assistance, but I've already told you my paradigm on how I look at this place anyway. You are that divine assistance, but the work we need to do to open those gates to be the best in that takes effort. So I just encourage everybody, be courageous and also be diligent and be dedicated.
I love that. Yeah, and do you want to tell people where they can find you? And thank you so much for doing this. And yeah,
Thank you, Rob.
yeah, this was awesome.
Thank God I finally got my name as my website address. So it's KEITHCOLEY. It's Keith Coley at gmail.com is my email address. My website is keithcoley.com. And I would encourage you, reach out to me. If you want to, just go to Facebook. If you're on Facebook, it's my name. You're going to see my face. I don't hide behind, an avatar only, or you're going to see my face and know it's me. It's my name, Keith Coley. Check me out on Facebook. Communicate to me through Messenger if that's the way you want to do it. If we work together, you'll get my phone number. To be quite honest, if you want to go online, you'll find my phone number anyway. I haven't changed it in forever, and I'm out there on the internet. So if you can find my phone number, I guess you could text or call me. But yeah, just reach out to me through email or through Messenger or through Messenger email, or my phone number. There we go.
All right. Thank you so much, Keith. And this was amazing. And thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. And have a good night, everyone. Take
Thank you.
care.